Good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Tonight's conversation is not about mythology. It's about a leadership mistake that quietly destroys credibility. So, if you have ever held back the truth out of loyalty, gratitude, or obligation, this conversation is for you. So, today we are exploring Karna from the Mahabharata, not as a tragic hero or as a villain, but as a capable leader whose choices still mirror what happens today in boardrooms, organizations, and leadership teams. This is not a religious discussion, but it's a leadership inquiry about loyalty, silence, and moral courage. And I want to say this upfront, some of the questions tonight may feel uncomfortable, but that's intentional. Joining me is our favorite commander, Girish Konkar, someone who has led under conditions where silence was never neutral and the consequences were always real. Tonight, I won't be asking him to retell stories, but I will be questioning him on decisions, judgment, and leadership failure through Karna's life. The objective is simple: to understand what you, the modern leader, must learn and what you must avoid. I also want to let our viewers know that towards the end of this session, I'll ask a question about Karna most leadership discussions avoid entirely. So I would encourage you to stay with us and stay with us till the end. So, sir, my first question for tonight is Karna is always admired for his loyalty. So let me start directly. Was he truly loyal or was he trapped by gratitude?
Okay, great question. And before we go any further, let's strip this story of any sentiment. Tonight, we are not meeting the Karna of television serials, motivational forwards, or recycled sympathy. We are meeting the Karna who actually exists in the BORI Critical Edition of the Mahabharat, which is translated by Dr. Vivek Debroy. It's a 10 book series. And this Karna is far more unsettling. He is not a helpless victim of fate. He is not crushed by destiny. He is undone by choice. His choices. Karna is a man of rare, almost dangerous capability who never healed one central wound, the wound of not belonging. That wound does not weaken him, it sharpens him. For founders, CXOs, MSME leaders, anyone at any level of leadership, guys, Karna is not a tragic hero. He is the archetype of the outsider high performer, the one with 10 times the skill of the insiders and none of the pedigree. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When such a person rises without inner clarity, they don't just struggle, they destabilize cultures, poison judgment, and quietly sabotage the mission. Often while believing that they're being loyal. Tonight we will follow Karna's life not as a story, but as a leadership autopsy. That's what we're going to do today.
To follow up on that, sir, the next question is, can talent survive when legitimacy is denied? And does that hunger, and what does that do to the hunger of the leadership judgment?
So Karna's story begins without any drama. And sometimes that is precisely what makes it lethal. See, before her marriage, Kunti invokes a sacred mantra, not out of any ambition, not rebellion, just purely out of curiosity. And the sun god answers. And a child is born who has got some gifts, which is armor. He's armored, he's radiant, extraordinary. But the text which is there here in this book, it is very precise. And in the BORI Critical Edition, there is a gifts. The man knows that there could be a problem. Remember, I'm saying the man knows that there could be a problem later, and he caters to the child with certain gifts so that the child can later on navigate the world that is bound to question him. And the crisis follows immediately. First, Kunti is unmarried, and in the Mahabharat's world, this single fact outweighs divinity, innocence, and ability. The critical edition does not explain or justify. There is no emotional scenes of Kunti wondering what to do. It is simply a one slok which says, realizing that I am unmarried, realizing that there could be major problems later on, she simply puts the child in a basket and sets adrift. No emotional drama here. And this moment is Karna's first fracture and the deepest. He is definitely born exceptional, but unclaimed, gifted, but illegitimate. In this world, lineage is important. We realize it. It's a currency. Without it, talent exists, but authority does not. A charioteer couple raises him with care. Again, there's not too much of details given in the book. He's loved, trained, supported, but the social order matters. He grows up capable of command, yet barred from it. Skilled, but never fully trusted. And this is a major leadership fault line that later on becomes a chasm. Karna is not denied just training, he is denied entitlement. And so he responds the only way a driven outsider knows how, with ferocious discipline, relentless mastery, and an unspoken hunger for recognition. His rivalry with Arjun is not just competitive, it is existential. It is the war between legitimacy and merit. In India, even now, identity still walks ahead of competence. And I think we are seeing it every day. Which college do you belong to? What is your family background, language, your network, your caste, or even your subcaste? And also, probably, also most dangerously, who brought you inside. An IIT or an IIM degree or just a degree still carries weight, but your merit in the overall thing still comes low down. I'm not saying people with merit don't rise, but in the overall scheme of things, merit seems to carry a little bit of lesser weight. So when organizations fail to give capable people a clear place, they don't lose talent, they create frustration. High performers without legitimacy don't focus on value creation. They burn energy, proving that they belong. Wise leaders understand this. Leadership is not about assigning responsibility, it is conferring legitimacy. And we can take a deeper life lesson also from this. Across Indian corporates and MSMEs, Karna lives on. Not from the right institution, not from the right background, not fluent in the dominant culture, not part of the informal inner circle. Exclusion alone does not destroy people. Their response to it does. Some grow bitter, some withdraw. Karna chooses excellence, but yet carries an unresolved need to be seen. Ambition powered by validation can win wars, but quietly distorts judgment. Leadership maturity is a transition from notice me to let my work speak, to whom I can develop or empower. Karna never completes that journey. And that unfinished inner work, not fate, is where the tragedy begins.
Rightly said, sir. And what the next part to this would be, what happens to a leader when extraordinary talent collides with a system that refuses to legitimize him, as we saw in Karna's story. And what does that moment do? Often, who leaders will become.
Yeah, that's where Karna's story stops. It stops being tragic and starts becoming dangerous. Because Karna does not fail for lack of ability. He fails because ability in the Mahabharat's world is never enough. As Karna grows, his skill becomes undeniable. Undeniable. It's undeniable. That his skill is highly skilled. His skill, his strength, his discipline, mastery, extraordinary. Focus. The kind of excellence that should help anyone naturally rise. But the system, unfortunately, does not ask, how good are you? It asks, who are you allowed to be? And Karna that it will accept. And the first public rupture, and we're hearing this word rupture quite often in the last couple of weeks from Davos, comes when Karna steps forward to challenge Arjuna. This moment is often criticized, romanticized in the films and all that, but in the critical edition, it is very brutal. It's straightforward, cut and dry. Karna is not rejected for his incompetence; he is rejected for his classification. Simple question asked to him by Kripacharya is declare your lineage. That single demand halts everything. In that one instant, Karna realizes something most professionals learn the hard way. The system does not oppose talent, it simply filters it out. It simply excludes him. And this is the second fracture in the Karna story. Karna is publicly reminded that skill without permission is a threat, not an asset. That excellence without legitimacy invites humiliation, not opportunity. Now, watch the psychological shift that takes place in Karna. Karna does not walk away. He does not retreat into bitterness or self pity. He internalizes a far more dangerous belief. If the system will not make space for me, I will bind myself to whoever will. And this is where Duryodhana enters. Not as a villain, but for Karna as a solution. Duryodhana does not test Karna. He does not verify credentials. He does not ask inconvenient questions. He simply recognizes him instantly. And that recognition feels like oxygen. In one public act, Karna is given what the system denied him for years: a title, a kingdom, and most importantly, legitimacy. And this is not just generosity, this is psychological capture. Because recognition received at the moment of deepest humiliation does not feel like opportunity, it feels like rescue. And leaders who are rescued rarely question the rescuer. And this leads to a great leadership trap, I would say. Every organization has a Karna. In the last 21 years of my journey as a leadership catalyst, I have noticed in every organization there is some Karna who's there. He's a brilliant performer who delivers without being invited to the table, contributes without being trusted with authority, excels but is never fully endorsed. Why? Because he doesn't have an MBA. And every organization has a Duryodhan moment. One leader, one promoter, one power center that says, I see you, stay with me. At that moment, a silent transaction takes place in the person and that organization. Competence is now exchanged for allegiance. Conscience is quietly deferred. And in the Mahabharat story, from this point on, Karna's choices will no longer be free. They will always be indebted. And this is not yet loyalty. So far, it becomes just dependency. And dependency, when dressed as gratitude, is one of the most dangerous forces in leadership. The uncomfortable truth here that we face is Karna does not ask himself one crucial question. At this moment, what will this recognition cost me later? Because when belonging finally arrives after years of exclusion, we don't examine its terms. We accept, we attach, we defend. And this is how most high performers slowly surrender judgment without ever feeling they have done anything wrong. And from here onward, Karna's talent will continue to grow. He will become exceptional in everything that he does, but his freedom to choose will quietly shrink. I always say that there's always a choice to do everything. But the moment you outsource your choice to whoever has given you the Duryodhan treatment, looked after you when you are down, you have no more choice. You don't exercise the choices that you might be having. Now, this is no longer the story of an outsider seeking fairness. This is the beginning of a leader who will protect the source of his legitimacy. Even when that source moves away from Dharma, from the duty, and once that line is crossed, the tragedy is no longer accidental, it becomes inevitable.
His life story is just somewhat of a dangerous mix, I would say, of
It starts getting
many,
even more dangerous
many.
now.
So, to follow up on that, sir, when recognition finally comes from one person, after years of being denied it by the system, how does the leader know when they have gained dignity, or do they quietly surrender their freedom?
Uh, yeah, before coming to that, once this, see, Karna sees the warning signs. He knows when Dharma is being crossed. You see, in the dice hall, in Draupadi's humiliation, in the steady march towards the war, the critical edition shows him speaking harshly. But speaking is not the same as acting. See, Karna does not withdraw support. He does not step away. He does not choose distance. Because when your legitimacy comes from one benefactor, your freedom to dissent quietly disappears. You may see what is wrong, but you feel it's unable to exit. And this is the leadership question Karna never fully answers. If I owe everything to this role, do I still have the right to say no? His gratitude becomes a chain, his loyalty becomes a cage. And here is the final irony. Karna spends his entire life searching for dignity, and he receives it. And in the process, he loses his moral autonomy. That is a failure of talent. If it is a failure of independent leadership, I would say. Now, coming to that question, that when a leadership is filled with capable people, how often is the real enemy not outside but inside the leadership itself? So by now, the Mahabharata stops being a war story and starts becoming a leadership warning, because the most dangerous battlefield is no longer outside the organization; it's inside the leadership team. In the Udyog and the Bhishma Parvas, the two parts in the Mahabharata, Duryodhan asked Bhishma to publicly evaluate the war. This is just before the war happening, and they are evaluating, what is in modern term in called as orbat, the order of battle. Who are the generals that we have? Who's their capability? So they're analyzing all this, and they're evaluating all the warriors who have come, all the kings who have owed allegiance to them, and said, okay, we are going to come, and they're a major force. That I think the number is 11 Okshavahini. That's a massive number, actually. I think, if not mistaken, 11 lakhs it comes to. Bhishma does not hesitate. He categorizes Karna, despite his competence, as a Ardharata. So there are various classifications. One is a Maharathi, Rathi, Ardharath, etc. That means a half chariot warrior. He's not a peer, not an equal, half. And his reasons are technical, even defensible to some extent. So he says Karna has already lost his Kavach and Kundala. He's operating under curses. He's prone to boastfulness. And those are the characteristics that go against Karna, and therefore he grades Karna lower down in the order of battle as a leader. And for Karna, this is not feedback. It is again, once again, a second time, he's again publicly humiliated by Bhishma again. And Karna reacts the way wounded leaders often do. He withdraws. He sort of just withdraws, saying, okay, you don't have trust in me, why should I fight? And he declares that he will not fight as long as Bhishma commands the Kaurava army. The critical edition records this without any drama again, but the strategic cost is staggering. See, for 10 of the 18 days of war, the Kauravas fight without their most aggressive warrior. Because Karna is very aggressive. He is kept out. Bhishma leads with a divided heart. Karna sits out, nursing wounded pride. This is not enemy action, this is self sabotage. And here's the leadership truth most organizations probably learn too late. When senior leaders weaponize hierarchy to belittle higher performers, and I've seen this with my own eyes before when I underwent for a coaching session with one company. Anyway, that's not the thing here. Teams fight at half the strength. Highly capable people, excellent professionals, but not working as a team. When Bhishmas and Karnas clash internally, only the Pandavas, that is your competitors, will benefit. Only after Bhishma falls on the 10th day, Karna finally enters the war fully. But now comes the final fatal setup. It's a game of chess being played here. Karna obviously insists that he must have a charioteer that is equal to Krishna. Could he not have had this discussion before the war? Unfortunately, he did not have it before the war. It was there after Bhishma fell that they said, okay, now who do you give to? Which charioteer will go with Krishna, with Shalya? And he says, I wanted to be equal with Krishna. So he received Shalya. Now, on paper, it looks impressive. Shalya was technically brilliant, experienced, battle hardened. In reality, that was the greatest psychological ambush that could have been played. Shalya was not there in the Kaurav's side out of his own will. That's a different story. We could discuss it later on. Therefore, Shalya despises Karna. Shalya is not for Karna, but highly capable. And he subtly and constantly praises Arjuna. He many times mocks Karna's horses, comparing them with Arjun's. He, in his ear, predicts his defeat. And therefore, even before a single arrow is fired, confidence for Karna is eroded. And this, I would say, is the leadership truth most founders that have family organizations they underestimate. A hostile expert is worse than an average ally. Competence without commitment is extremely dangerous. And competence combined with hostility is lethal. Arjun has Krishna, who steadies him, anchors him, and sharpens his clarity. Karna has Shalya, who corrodes him from within. And it is beautiful the way it is done. Karna is defeated first in his mind, and whenever you study warfare, it is always said that if you can disable your enemy's mind, you won the war. He might have the best of equipment, the best of weapons, everything good, but if his mind is not hardened, mind is not there, you already lost the battle, the war. And therefore, Karna is defeated first in his mind by the man standing beside him. And that brings us to the most uncomfortable homework of this entire story. I want all those who see this podcast, audit your inner circle, your co-founders, your operations team, your senior people, your advisors, your board of directors, all the entire team. Advise them. Are they Krishnas who ground you, who challenge you and align you to the purpose? Or are they Shalyas, technically sound, emotionally misaligned, quietly training your confidence? Because in 2026, speed is survival. And a Shalya in your cockpit isn't just noise. It's a slow, certain defeat. In one core intervention I had done with founders is an inner circle audit. Who steadies your judgment under pressure and who drains it. So you put a team under pressure, intense pressure. Can they hold pressure? When things are going hunky-dory, everybody is fantastic. All of them are going, there's no problems. It's when there is extreme stress happening around you, when nothing is going as a plan, does the team stick together? That is important. Most leadership failures I see are not due to bad intent, but because the wrong inner voices sit too close for too long.
So one quick question is, how does a leader stop managing strategy and start unconsciously protecting their ego? And even if it means weakening their own team.
Okay, great question. And this is the classic silo warfare. And you've seen it before. A sales head refuses to cooperate because operations leads the project. A founder sidelines a strong second in command out of insecurity. A CEO tolerates the standoff in the name of experience or seniority. And the organization pays the price. When you study the entire Mahabharata also, each one of them are exceptionally brilliant people, but they do not have one clear purpose. I always, at the cost of, one is beg, borrow, steal type of things, Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhet. I insist on the organizations when I work with them. What is your purpose? If that purpose is not aligned, not clear, not crystal clear, in simple words that even the doorman can understand it, your organization is finished. Exceptional. It can be a fantastic organization. The Kauravas were great people. They had a flourishing empire. It's not that the empire is in ruins. So coming back to this, Duryodhana's failure is in the lack of talent. It's a lack of integration of the talent. He manages tasks, not egos, and he loses both. Because the leader's real job isn't allocating work. It's aligning authority around a shared vision, shared purpose, vision, mission. And now watch Karna's own blindness emerge. As the war progresses, Karna, his focus narrows dangerously. Across the Udyog and Drona Parvas, he becomes obsessed with one person, Arjun. Till then, it was not so obsessive. But that obsession becomes, as the days progress after day 11, that becomes a single minded, very purpose of existence becomes Arjun, 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 Arjun. Everything becomes about beating Arjun. And he has acquired the Vasavi Shakti, a single use, infallible weapon which is reserves it exclusively for one person alone, and that is for Arjun. And this is no longer a strategy, it is a fixation. And the battlefield shifts then. Krishna unleashes Ghatochkach, a force of chaos, disruption, and terror. Because by then the rules of engagement have changed. See, till this Bhishma falls, they had a fair amount of rules of engagement. They're listed down. Now is not the time to go into it, but that warfare should be ethics, morals, all that is meant to be like what we have today in the Geneva Convention for War also. After Bhishma falls, because Bhishma probably was one factor which they ensured that war didn't completely break down. I mean, the whole thing didn't. So night warfare was not allowed. After sunset, the war stopped. So Ghatochkach, who had the powers in the night, could not be brought in. The day Bhishma falls, after that, Ghatochkach is brought in. And moment Ghatochkach is dropped in, and he creates the entire chaos. There is a post disruption, terror, and it builds a lot of pressure on Duryodhana. And he builds that pressure now on Karna, saying, Karna, use the Vasavi Shakti to neutralize Ghatochkach. So in the moment of, what do you say, Karna uses the Vasavi Shakti against Ghatochkach. An entire thing after that he repents it. Because he spends that most decisive resource too early. Mm-hmm. A fully finite advantage that he had is burnt reactively, not strategically. And this is practically a plain leadership lesson hiding in plain sight. When your entire roadmap is around beating one competitor, you become reactive to what is the competition doing. Because your purpose, vision, mission, everything is based on one competitor. You exhaust your best resources responding to their moves instead of advancing your mission. And when real disruption arrives, your war chest is completely empty. That, I would say, is a fantastic lesson.
So what would happen when a leader finally discovers the truth about who they are. And after that, they've already built a life, a reputation, and a sense of honor around a different story.
So, just before the war begins, something extraordinary happens. For the first time in his life, Karna is offered everything he ever wanted, without disguise, without bargaining, without borrowed legitimacy. And the offer doesn't come from an ally, it comes from a patron. It comes from Krishna. Krishna approaches Karna privately. No audience, no drama, and then first time reveals the truth to Karna. That Karna is not a charioteer's son. He is Kunti's firstborn. He is a Pandav by blood, elder even to Yudhishthir. Now, everything Karna believed about himself collapses in one moment. And with that truth comes an offer that is almost unimaginable. Krishna tells him, whatever has happened has happened. Life has been tough. I understand. It's not so great, all that stuff. Join the Pandavas. Receive recognition by right, not charity. You get the kingdom. You get the honor. A legacy that needs no defense. Now, the critical edition records this meeting with restraint. There's no emotional outbursts, no collapses. Oh my God, what happened? No denial. Karna listens completely silently. He understands, he believes, and then calmly refuses.
Takes a learned man
That's
to have that sort of a drop a bombshell moment and
and we are
yet
used to
be
seeing
so
all the
contained.
Mahabharata. Yeah, we're seeing the all the things on television serials and drama, and stuff, but in the book is very crystal clear. He simply calmly says, "Sorry, too late."
Too
Wow,
late.
that
Yeah. At what point does staying loyal become the most sophisticated form of self betrayal?
so you see, this refusal is one of the most revealing leadership moments in the entire Mahabharata. See, Karna does not reject Krishna because he doubts the truth. He doesn't doubt the truth. He rejects him because, again, of one thing only: loyalty. In effect, Karna says, my birth may have been denied, but my allegiance has already been given. I am now a slave. That's not written anywhere, with inverted commas, underlined. Not said, but understood. Accepting Krishna's offer would mean abandoning Duryodhana. A difficult choice to make. And he doesn't, but he makes it instantly. It would mean admitting that his life of struggle, resentment, and indebted loyalty might have followed a different path. And that is a price Karna cannot bring himself to pay. Because here's uncounted leadership insight which is hiding in this moment. By the time the truth arrives, many leaders are often too invested in their existing story to accept. See, Karna finally has what he lacked all his life: clarity of identity. Who am I? But that clarity came late. His relationships are already entangled, they are completely. His sense of honor already committed. Changing sides may be logical, but to Karna, it feels dishonorable. And this is the cost of delayed self alignment. Because this is painfully familiar. In Indian corporates and business life, many professionals reach this exact moment. An offer comes along that aligns better with better values, with growth, with long term purpose. But at times, by then, obligations have piled up. Loyalty to a promoter. Family organizations face this. Gratitude to a mentor. Fear of appearing ungrateful. An identity built on struggle that feels impossible to abandon. And so they stay. Not because staying is right, but because leaving feels like betrayal. Karna chooses consistency over correction, honor over evolution, loyalty over alignment. And notice something crucial. Karna does not argue. He does not persuade. Correction, Krishna. Krishna does not argue with Karna. He does not try to persuade Karna also. He does not coerce. He could have. He simply accepts Karna's choice. He could have argued. He convinced Arjun to fight the entire Mahabharat when he's told the Gita, saying, "Don't, you can't give up now." Now that he's come to Karna to try and convince him to join, he could have probably done something to convince Karna, but for whatever reasons, Krishna does not try to convince Karna. He simply respects Karna's freedom to choose, and that gives us the final unsettling lesson. Truth does not automatically liberate. It liberates only those who are ready to realign their lives around it. I mean, the war would have taken a different turn had Karna by then said, yes, I mean, whatever has happened. Yes, it was a wrong thing. Kunti is willing to also repent. Kunti also comes to him and says, Krishna says, I will handle everything. Don't worry. You are the one. Sorry, it's late, but yes. He simply said, no. Somebody might call it greatness, but that's a wrong, but his allegiance was a wrong purpose. He had a choice now to switch his allegiance to a purpose which is bigger, better. He just So he discovers who is truly only after he's bound himself to who he promised to be. And that is the deepest warning in Karna's story for modern leaders. If you keep delaying and if you align your identity, value, direction with a completely negative purpose, this itself becomes a trap. It's your purpose. Why do you even exist? Why does your organization exist? That matters. And when the moment of truth finally arrives, you may see it clearly, yet still be unable to choose it. So even when Karna had the power of choice to go on the other side, which had definitely a bigger purpose, he chose not to.
So, in that sense, is leadership decided in moments of crisis or years, like succession planning, years earlier, by compromises that we choose not to correct?
So every unresolved choice, when you don't resolve it, will demand payment in war later on. And this, I would say, is a great leadership truth. When truth arrives and you are not ready, it does not force you. It waits. Now, when you fast forward to the battlefield, the 18th day, Karna faces Arjun. The moment he trained all his life for. There is no cowardice here. There is no retreat. He knows that he does not have the ultimate weapon that he had reserved for him, but he fights fiercely. There is no cowardice here. There is no retreat. Karna fights with full intensity, and then his chariot wheel sinks to the earth. He jumps down to free it. For a moment, he is unarmed. And Karna appeals to Arjun to the warrior code. He tells him that it is unrighteous to strike an unarmed man. On paper, he's right. Arjun hesitates. Arjun pauses to say, yes, I cannot fire at this unarmed man. He's down. Let him get his chariot back away, and then we'll resume the fight. Krishna intervenes. There is no emotional outburst here from Krishna. He's like an auditor. Krishna simply audits Karna's life. Krishna does not dispute the rule that you should not fight an unarmed man, that you should not kill Karna now. But he audits Karna's history with the rule. He asks him, now, he had just 18 days back told Arjun the Gita. When Arjun had put down his weapons to say, I cannot fight my brothers, and he had convinced Arjun that you have to fight your brothers and uncles and aunts, not aunts, but uncles, because it is of moral superiority, etc. And here, Arjun again hesitates. How can I kill Arjun? How can I kill Karna? So Krishna audits him and says, where was your dharma when Draupadi was humiliated? Because Karna was an active participant in egging Duryodhan to say, do this. He was not a silent person. Where was, he says, your restraint when Abhimanyu was surrounded and killed? Wasn't that adharma? Where were your principles when silence suited the Kaurava cause? Krishna's logic is devastating. Dharma is not a rule book you invoke when convenient. It's a responsibility you uphold when it is costly. Like they always say, character is not revealed in difficult moments. Character is built every single day over a lifetime. And that's what Karna's tragedy was. Over a lifetime, Karna treated Dharma as negotiable, invoked when protective, ignored when inconvenient. His ethical capital is exhausted. Arjun still hesitates. He is not bloodthirsty. But Krishna insists not to lower standards but to restore moral continuity. Rules cannot now shield someone who repeatedly violated them when they applied to others. And Arjun then releases the arrow, Karna falls. Not because Dharma is unfair in that moment, but because compromises compound. In modern language, this is the day the mantras fail. There is a technical debt that is cutting corners in systems, processes, governance. And then there is the ethical debt, cutting corners in truth, fairness, accountability. As long as the road is smooth, bull markets, no audits, no scrutiny, you appear to get away with it. And there are many such instances, right from Satyam to ILFS to I can name a couple of more also that are there with it. But when the wheel finally gets stuck during a crisis, investigation collapse. The shortcuts surface. You forget the mantra when you need it most. And that is a leadership warning for all of us. Karna is not killed because he lacked skill or courage. He is killed because of unresolved choices which finally come due. Krishna's role here is not cruelty, it is closure. Karna, in the entire Mahabharata, Karna only meets Krishna only twice in the entire Mahabharata in life. Once was before the war, when Krishna comes with the choice whether to choose sides, or once during the war. This time, no choice on the 18th day. Just imagine, I just thought of this. The entire Mahabharata, they meet only twice. Once before the war and once on the 18th day, and that's it. Once Krishna gives him a choice, second time, no choice, only the end. Leadership is decided in the first meeting, the second only delivers the outcome. So if you're a leader today, ask yourself honestly, am I staying on because it is right? Am I doing this decision because it is right or because leaving would invalidate my past? Am I loyal to Dharma, my purpose, overall purpose, or indebted to a person? Have I delayed my alignment of that purpose so long that success itself has become a trap? Karna was brilliant, heroic, and still he fell. Because leadership without inner alignment of yours with your purpose and with your organization's purpose, unless they're aligned, always carry a hidden expiry date. And that is the reality.
So, when a leader's story finally comes to an end, what matters more? How capable they were, or how aligned they were, what they stood for?
Uh, See, now by now, Karna has fallen, and after Karna's death, the truth finally surfaces. After that, the Pandavas learned that the man they fought hardest throughout the entire duration was their elder brother. Yudhishthir is shaken because in that moment something devastating becomes clear. The greatest opponent they faced could have been their greatest strength. But anyway, that was history. And this is also Karna's final irony. Now that he was killed, but that potential was never truly aligned. Karna's life becomes a quiet masterclass in how extraordinary talent can be slowly wasted by poor associations and unhealed insecurity. He had the skill of probably a god, but often, as recorded in the Mahabharata, the tongue of a bully, the heart of a giver. He was dansur, but the instincts of a reactionary. Brilliant, brave, generous, and still tragically misaligned. That one thing, what is my purpose? And that is why Karna is not just an ancient character, he is a mirror for us. In corporates, in organizations, whether it's small or big, Karna is a star performer who anchors identity to the one boss or promoter and ends up defending the indefensible auto-gratitude. In MSMEs, he is the founder who stays bound to the wrong investor or partner because of an old favor, long after the values have drifted apart. In personal life, Karna is the reminder that unresolved insecurity eventually drives behavior more than talent ever will. Karna teaches us some uncomfortable truths. Talent will open doors, but only your purpose and values will tell you which side of the door to stand on. Loyalty is powerful, but loyalty without a moral compassion, a moral compass, can destroy what you most want to protect. Courage is admirable, amazing. His courage was fantastic, but courage in service of the wrong cause, wrong purpose, wrong vision, wrong mission. Mission is later on. Purpose, vision, values only accelerates disaster. So I would say this is your leadership. As we come to the end, this is your leadership homework from this session. First, do an identity audit. Are there any old wounds, pedigree, rejection, a past failure, which you are overcorrecting by overgiving, overfighting, or overproving? Think to yourself. Second, your own loyalty audit. Is your loyalty aligned to purpose and principle, or quietly trapped around one Duryodhan somewhere? And third, an inner circle audit of your people. Who is your Krishna? Who can bring stability? Who can point towards you and say, look, please be warned, this is not correct. And who is your Shalya? Krishna steadies your judgment, and Shalyas feed on your insecurity. Karna is not a saint, he's a villain. Sorry, he's not a villain also. He is certainly not a helpless victim. He is a gifted but wounded man who has lost his purpose, whose unhealed need to belong shaped every critical decision he made, and ultimately his fall. That is why Karna's story isn't just epic literature. It's a leadership manual written in blood. Your talent may open many doors. Only your inner clarity will tell you which one should you enter and which ones must you walk away from, no matter how flattering they feel in the moment. It's a difficult choice, but you have to choose. Purpose will always override loyalty. Be warned. So before we close, pause. Turn Karna's story inward. Ask yourself honestly, am I driven by an all-defining purpose for the good, for the betterment of mankind, or a narrow purpose, very restrictive, by an old need to prove I belong? Is my loyalty aligned with my values or trapped by gratitude and fear? And the people closest to me, are they strengthening my judgment or are they quietly distorting it? As I said, Karna was immensely capable. That was never a problem. His tragedy was his lack of alignment with the purpose. And thank you, folks, for staying till the end. Not just for your time, but for your willingness to sit with this discomfort. Karna's story isn't easy. It asks us to look at our loyalties, our silences, and the choices we postpone. If something stayed with you tonight, don't rush to resolve it. Let it work on you. Leadership doesn't change in moments of applause. It changes in quiet moments of honesty. And next week, we turn to another powerful figure, often portrayed as a villain, rarely examined with nuance. That's it. We're going to examine Duryodhan, not to defend him, but to understand how unbridled ambition and blind conviction can reshape leadership for better or for worse. Please subscribe so that you get the notification and do join us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you everyone who's joined this live. See you next week.